School is often described as a place for growth, but for some of us, it felt more like a test of endurance. While the world rewards the hand that goes up first, it often ignores the mind that is busy processing the why behind the question. If you spent your school years feeling like a laptop running a heavy program in a room with no charger, this file is for you. Today we're talking about the archives about the 7 psychological hurdles an introvert face in school. 1. The participation tax or extroversion bias. Have you ever sat in class, knowing every single answer in the textbook, but your grade still dropped because you didn't raise your hand? And then you're forced to speak just to prove you're awake. This is rooted in extroversion bias, the cultural prejudice that the loudest person is the most capable. In reality, introverts often have high stimulation sensitivity. We don't speak to fill space, we speak when the data is ready. Forcing a quiet student to talk for points is like forcing a high-end printer to run without ink. It just damages the machine. 2. The group project anxiety or social loafing. We've all been in this situation. The teacher says, "Find a partner," and your heart immediately sinks. You end up in a group where everyone is shouting ideas at once, but no one is actually listening. Introverts often suffer from social loafing. This is when people in a group work less hard because they assume someone else will do it. Usually that someone is you, the quiet student who overfunctions to avoid the conflict of speaking up. While they are brainstorming out loud, you are using internal reflection, trying to build the house in your head while they're still arguing over the color of the front door. 3. The lunchroom overload or sensory gating. Have you found yourself wishing you could just eat your lunch in a library or a bathroom stall? You're surrounded by the clatter of trays, the screaming of hundreds of voices, and the bright fluorescent lights. Many introverts have thin sensory gating. This is the brain's ability to filter out background noise. While an extrovert's brain can mute the chaos, your brain treats every sound as a high-priority alert. By 1 p.m., you aren't just tired, you are experiencing sensory overload. 4. The cold calling freeze or the neural pathway. You ever have the teacher call your name when your hand wasn't even up, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank? You know the answer. You read it 5 minutes ago, but your mouth won't move. This is a neural pathway delay. Research shows that introverts have a significantly longer path for processing info, moving through the deep memory and planning centers of the brain. It's like downloading a 4K movie on slow Wi-Fi. The file is perfect, but the stress of the spotlight keeps your loading bar at 99%. You aren't slow. You're just a high-end processor waiting for data to finish its scenic route through your brain's thorough cables. 5. The "are you okay" loop, or misattributed effect. Have you ever been perfectly fine, only to have someone ask, "Are you mad?" because you aren't smiling? You're simply existing in your own head, but everyone else treats your silence like an emergency they need to fix. Misattributed affect is a psychological bias where observers incorrectly assign a negative emotion, like anger or sadness, to a neutral expression. Because introverts often use their resting face while processing deep thoughts, others misinterpret this lack of outward stimulation as distress. It's like being a quiet library that someone keeps calling the fire department for, simply because they don't see any dancing in the aisles. You aren't sad. You're just deep in the archives, and having to constantly perform happiness for others is an exhausting emotional tax. 6. The hallway gauntlet or phatic communication. We've all been here. You see an acquaintance walking toward you, and suddenly your phone becomes the most interesting thing in the world. You aren't being rude. You just don't have the social tokens required for a 30-second conversation that goes nowhere. Phatic communication refers to social grooming speech. Language used to perform a social task, rather than convey information. For an introvert, these low-value exchanges feel like a repetitive glitch in your operating system, because they drain your battery without offering any intellectual depth. It's like being forced to restart your computer 5 times in a row just to check the time. You take the long way to class not to hide, but to preserve your processing power for things that actually matter. 7. The quiet excellence trap, or the halo effect. Have you ever been struggling with a subject, but the teacher never checked on you because you seemed fine? You're the good kid. You don't cause trouble, so you get ignored. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where your quiet, compliant behavior leads authority figures to incorrectly assume you are perfectly stable in all areas, leaving your internal struggles invisible. This leads to internalized pressure, a silent burnout where you feel like you aren't allowed to fail because your silence is seen as stability. If you were the quiet kid, your silence wasn't a glitch. It was your observation phase. Which of these quiet hurdles did you survive? Or did I miss the one that drove you the craziest? Drop your story below. Let's make this space a sanctuary. I'm Ponder, and the archives are always open. Stay gentle with yourself.